zone to get the victory. Defending first, back on the Sombra for one as well. Looking to see if this can be the time to get in.
Exactly where you want to be for Global Esports, though. Might just be on the cusp of taking down their second high-caliber team in this fresh season of Contenders with this fresh roster. Just coming out the gate, they are looking to stick to that 3-3. We're just scouting earlier. Nova going to be running a Sombra again.
And this is where for Global Esports, not going to run anything too crazy. Backed up with the Widow, don't have a Sombra. Oyo's going to find his Anna quickly going into the middle of a Diva pretty soon.
Oh, nice catch onto Nexus. Despite the hack out on Satchok, he can still swing that hammer. Your left click is just still operable. And Global Esports, again, just kind of bounding through, feeling like they're coming up against very little resistance here.
And the thing is, they know there's a Sombra in play. They know that they can just kind of get themselves onto the point, force the issue, set the tempo of the game. Once again, like we've seen on the previous maps, Nova MS want to play slow. They want to wait for the hack. They want to wait for the bio-nade. They got neither of those. And for Global Esports, first point, first attempt.
And that's the thing. I mean, They don't want to let the Sombra play the Sombra game. They don't want to fall into that pace of play, which is what happened on Kings Row for that one brief blip. So not falling prey to the same problem twice. Global Esports, no ultimates to go on though for this push.
They just need to survive the EMP. If they can do that, they can get a lot more ults in. They're waiting for Earthshatter. It's very close. They're waiting for Transcendence as well. And for one, he's waiting for the right opportunity to throw his Translocator up or just wait to see if Global Esports wants to jump on the low ground.
Unfortunately, part of that opportunity was actually waiting for the Translocator to come off cooldown. And in that time, Global Esports have charged up a Transcendence, which is right there in response. Beautifully timed by Xeon Flux. And they're able to already finish off Nexus. Xenoflight does get demexed, but a decent Earthshatter from Satchok. He unfortunately gets bumped down onto some lower grounds. Catch on Oyo. Global Esports still very much in this fight, and if they can last out long enough, Xenofly will remake.
And here comes that Graviton Surge, so they need to survive that, and they have the sound barrier to just do that.
Satchok is still low, and he will get finished off, though, so even as Xenofly is back in the mech with a self-destruct available, they aren't in the ideal situation. However, Grav layered up with a self-destruct, but a counter Earthshatter keeps little Rax on his back, and he's not able to get much done. Now it goes down despite the counter trade for Nexus. It does feel like Global Esports have slowly been stopped up here.
We'll just see if one will be forced to use the EMP here. And what we do see is Xenofly using his ability to get the kill. So yeah, the EMP does get used.
Nicely done as well, laid on top of a good number of members. They don't get the picks they need though, and Global Esports is starting to rally back into this one, both literally and figuratively. It's actually Nova MS also committing a rally, funnily enough. Charge forward from Nexus, finds nothing. Little Rax came under the Doomfist just to try and reinforce quickly, and it is actually paying off. This is the longest we've seen a Doomfist survive this season. Good bump up onto Nexus. They're able to finish him off, and Global Esports just pull it right back around. Just when you thought they were going to be repelled, they press the assault and are looking to fully cap out.
And I'm instantly reminded of Kings Row. When you start to look at Global Esports, are they slowing down? Are they starting to lose momentum? Are they running out of steam here, running out of juice on Kings Row? They go back for the Miracle A hold. It works. They win that map. Going on to Hanamura now. This is technically a 1 in 10 push for both A and B. They did not stop at all. A lot of small details worked in their favor. You saw how diligently they waited for Xeon Flux to have the Transcendence available to counter out one with that EMP. Azure then had the sound barrier available as soon as the Graviton Surge was coming out of Nova MS as well. Several times in a row, they had the absolute perfect response. Satchok living as well when he was bio-naded, gets himself Transcendence healed back up, gets himself an Earthshatter as well. Nova MS just could not find the ability to get that hold.
It's been a bit of a chronic issue for Nova MS as well. Not quite finishing kills, getting close but not quite managing it, getting a good connection on an EMP but not quite being able to find any picks from it, and so on and so forth.
And I'll be honest, towards the end there, Global Esports, they looked like they were probably going to lose. The EMP comes through from one. You'd expect this is where they close out the defense. And if you are Global Esports, you're probably okay with it. You think if we do lose this fight, we baited up the EMP, we absorb that ultimate, we come in, knowing that they're not going to have the EMP for the next fight. But guess what? They do even better than that. They actually get their full cap out and in a pretty decent amount of time. 4:55. Nova MS, once again, backs against the wall, 0-2. They have to have a solid offense to keep up.
Gonna stick to the Sombra this time on the offense. this is where the Sombra can play to its own pace a little bit more.
Sneaks by undetected as well, dodges a fire strike, dodges a bunch of spam coming through from Little Rags. So step one complete for Nova MS. Get one to the back line.
And this is that Sombra pace we were talking about. It puts some pressure down, and that does mean the Global Esports are going to have to address the point a little bit. Nexus needs to not get too overzealous, though. Oh, bump forward is going to have a hard time getting back to his team, and indeed is not going to be able to do so at all. It's also Satchok getting 3 whole kill credits, goes a long way towards charging an Earth Shatter.
A perfect spread of members. You see Xenofly there charging directly towards one as a Diva, going for the 1v1. Absorbs the hack, but it doesn't matter. One can't win that 1v1, can't get a hack on a better member. Satchok goes forward, gets 3 kills, and is nearly in an Earth Shatter.
But it was really rough seeing Nexus go a bit too far forward and never quite be able to pull back. That's the power of especially the Lucio, but just all the displacement you get in a 3-3 composition. Very, very mediocre EMP, but it is enough to finish off Satchok. Now they're just looking to get the pressure onto Bubble Kitty, or at least some other members. Maybe get Xenofly out of a mech. Just pushing forward to the point now.
What you do see there is you're able to get a low coverage EMP when there's no defensive ultimates. Xeon Flux dying at 97% is even then corroborating that.
Now it's just a bit of a brawl on the point as Nova MS should start to run away with this fight, getting Xenofly's mech. Lil Rax is a Graviton Surge, but chooses not to commit it there. I think they are wanting to be a bit conservative. They know that this fight is all but lost, and they want to hold on to some ultimates rather for point B.
And considering how some of their offenses have gone in previous maps, this has been pretty successful. 1 blunder at the start, 2 minutes expended to get A. All things considered, this is now a decent beginning pushing into B. EMP should be coming online very soon as well. Double support ultimates, Graviton Surge to back that up, Earth Shatter nearly available. Global Esports, 1 Transcendence, maybe a sound barrier. They do have ultimates, but not nearly as many as Nova.
So now, just looking to finish off the last few percentages of that EMP, and then we'll be looking for the angle in. Nearly the full Christmas tree. Ubukar takes some chunks, but there's the EMP to connect. A good connection as well. Nice Earth Shatter layered on top. Charging on Satchok to secure the kill. And that's Global Esports already bleeding from the mouth on this one. Nova MS as well. Deep pockets, plenty to go on.
So this is very important now. Global Esports do have 6 ultimates, and they do need to wait for a full round of respawns. 2 ticks are gone here. They need to expend ults.
Oh, and that was beautifully done as well. You saw Crazy S. They were waiting to see which spawn gate the team was going to come out of so that they could preempt it with a huge lob in on the Graviton Surge to stop Global Esports from getting onto that point. Nicely handled by Nova MS to make their hard work pay off.
You look at the timing from Nova MS as well, super important, because Global Esports, despite technically a little bit behind, not by too much, they were slightly behind in the ultimate charge rate. They were only behind enough that if Nova MS did not engage, did not commit to the fight, until, you know, a little bit later, Global Esports would have had the correct responses. They would have had all the right counters like they did on the offense. This would have been a very unfortunate push for Nova. We could have been sitting here for a couple more extra minutes. Instead, we're at the time bank, 5:17 versus 4:55. Nova MS have got a better time bank.
I mean, it's impressive enough that the time banks are actually comparable when you consider how quick Global Esports took A and then arguably got a 1-fight push on B. It was just quite a long fight because they chose to hang in and double down when it was looking a bit rough. Nova MS struggled a bit on A. They did get it still in relatively convincing fashion, but to have such a commanding fight coming in to be such a snowbally fight and coming in with not just an even time, but an advantage, very important for them.
And this is the first time as well for Global Esports. They really just lose a very winnable fight. Lose in terms of not being able to get to the objective, lose in terms of very minute timing windows, and so they're just slightly behind on the time back. They're going to take this one very seriously. Offense first, very standard 3-3.
There they go, moving forward. Azure's going to be looking for some kind of displacement. Nexus hands it to him on a platter though, but it was in the purpose of getting Bubble Kitty, and actually Global Esports, they're the ones who have found themselves pressed up against the wall. It's not as you're finding picks, it's Jervis setting kills up.
And the one member they thought they caught out there, Nexus charging in, gets himself a kill, but then gets bumped forward. He lives through all of that damage, which means Nova MS don't even have to wait for respawners. They're definitely hit an ult charge right now. First fight lost for Global Esports, still got 4 minutes though.
Very crucial for them as well. Compare and contrast to how that went last time around. They do need to finish off those ultimates. One, super low here, but also super close to grab, but no, not close enough. Satchok goes down though and trade as well. Bubble Kitty, this is advantage to Nova MS, who are also sitting on a good gamut of ultimates, going to be able to finish off Little Rex. That means Nexus stays alive. That means that despite the early loss there of one, Nova MS weather the storm and are going to have a big advantage now.
Yeah, and they have to wipe sweat off the brow there as well, losing one member super quickly, but they get the correct counter trades. Global Esports just not letting off on that pace. They do have to contest now with a lot of ultimates on the defensive side. One grab to work with. They can slow down the game. They do now Transcendence. Will probably get Sound Barrier as well. That's really what they got to rely on. They have to survive against Nova and then counter trade.
Oh, well, that's one way to survive is eat. Got to eat to survive. Eat a grab.
Eat a shatter as well.
Yeah, just eat the whole lot, absorb everything, and now dish it out double. Now that you are at full fighting strength, that's Oyo down. Bubuka as well, Crazy S out of the mech, and Global Esports, everything we said they needed to do, they pull off without a hitch.
And I reiterate, they have to survive against Nova MS's ults and then counter trade. They do all of that and then more. A full team wipe. They only spent a couple there. Three of their own. They still have 3 more to push on to B with. Very critical now. Can they get the snowball rolling? 3 minutes and 2 seconds to do so.
This is almost more than what they had going in. The last time they pushed on to B, and they were able to do that in one fight. One long fight, we say again, but one nonetheless. Nova MS, they've got a few tools to work with here.
But no support ultimates, crucially. That is what they are missing, and it is a big deal. Global Esports now pushing the issue on the point already.
Earth Shatters out on both sides. Neither team quite getting the better of that trade. Nexus taking some damage, but this time does not get fully isolated. It's actually Satchok taking the big pain. They're having to work double time to keep him alive and in the fight, and that equals a Transcendence from Xeon Flux. Graviton Surge as well out, lay it up, self-destruct, comes down, picks up 2. Crazy S going to build a defense off the back of that alone, and with that Global Esports, this is not a situation where you can just hang in and turn it back around. They're going to have to reset.
And you see the amount of pressure Nova MS put on Satchok as well, putting his shield onto 0, making sure that he cannot block out the damage from that self-destruct when it does eventually land. Combat up with the Graviton Surge, getting those 2 kills. Global Esports this time do not get that long extended fight. Nova MS do not let history repeat itself. They will finally get that full reset, and they do get a little bit of space to work with, finally working up towards those double defensive ults.
That's the critical one. Even Nexus leading Satchok in Earth Shatter. That was with both committing it within seconds of each other in the last fight. Now Global Esports, they know that this is possibly just a rebuilding fight for them. Earth Shatter goes in, only gets the 1. They're not quite able to follow up on that one either. Trying to isolate, they do indeed get Xenofly able to commit a self-destruct in the nick of time. Graviton Surge laid in and largely responded to by Oyo. Now it starts to get a little bit weird. Global Esports, nothing to go on as that Earth Shatter from Satchok whiffs. Bubble Kitty and Bubuka, 1 for 1 so far. Nova MS are going to have to start committing some ultimates. They do, starting with a Sound Barrier, and they are rewarded with a win.
And Nova MS are in command of the economy game right now. It is 1 defensive ultimates for 1 offensive ultimate. They are able to counter so effectively. We're essentially into 1 fight territory now. Global Esports, less than 1 minute remaining. This will likely be their final push. They don't have a lot to work with here. Transcendence up and available. No Earth Shatter. Graviton Surge may be coming up if this fight can go long enough, but guess what? Nova MS already do have that Graviton Surge. The only thing they are missing are defensive ultimates. You don't need the defense just yet when you have so much offense, and when Global do not have that offense.
The only thing that Global Esports have to go on is Xeon Flux's Transcendence. If they can time that right, if they can rescue themselves against a grab, they could be in business.
Global Esports are going to just see if they can wait for Lil Rax.
Oh, that's so huge! Getting the outside of Satchok's shield. They finish off Little Rax already. That's really critical. They needed that grab later in this fight, and they're possibly not going to get to that later. Good bump off onto the low ground for Nexus. It's going to be a long walk for him to get back now. But they've got that sort of time on their hands. Crazy S can take the brunt for now on his back as that Earth Shatter comes out. Nice shield in time from Nexus to keep Crazy S alive for the most part. Losing the mech, but that's just fine. Satchok goes down. Xeon Flux goes down. Now Bubble Kitty and Nexus staying in that fight that entire time. One, the only significant casualty this time around. And Nova MS will steer through the defense with barely a few kinks in the overall game plan. Global Esports gonna have to fully hold somewhere if they want to still turn this into a win.
And right now, this is the most competitive map we've had in the entire series. We have to start looking back at Nova MS in the previous week, 2 maps down, suddenly on map number 3, looking reinvigorated. They haven't quite won yet, they haven't quite lost yet, but they are in position to potentially get a map win. You do have to start looking over at the Global Esports side of things. They did not get a single tick onto B. They struggled to get the cap onto A. Nova MS, definitely not out of hot water either. They now have to go up against what could be a very solid defense to finally get this victory.
That being said, 5 minutes 17, you'd like to think they can do it. You would have said the same, though, for Global Esports with 4:55, but, well, we know how it ended up playing out. It's interesting that Global Esports were not able to replicate the success they had on their initial offense. It feels like Nova MS have finally cottoned on to how they're playing.
So important note to remember here is that Nova MS cannot afford to draw. If they cap A, but they do not get a single tick onto B, this map will go to a draw, which means by default, Global Esports will take a 2-0 lead that cannot be matched by Nova MS in any way. So this has to be a cap out on A and a 1-tick cap onto B minimum.
That does mean Nova MS, for how good this situation looks, are still arguably here with their backs against the wall in the grand scheme of things. Sombra again out the gate, one again.
Undetected.
The slip.
Didn't take a single lick of damage, no one saw him, so definitely getting off to a decent start.
There's that pressure, gets a hack onto his Yob, takes some big chunks. He's gonna have to translocate out. That means the rest of the team brawling by the gate. Global Esports know that it's a 5 versus 6 there.
And that's the thing as well, one had so much damage taken, he couldn't have gone into the fight anyway. Once again, just barely slipped by undetected.
Oh, that's a bit too much damage. And once again, we see Nexus ends up unable to safely retreat back to his team.
Satchok got himself hacked there as well, so if Nexus was still alive, Nova MS probably do push in with a slight advantage in terms of having their Ryan able to use abilities. Some around the one still somewhere in the back line. They are hunting him out, but right now, oh, he did get caught.
Oh, they aren't quite able to finish him off before he translocates to safety. Neither team has anything to go on just yet, still jostling for some kind of advantage.
That's actually a really big deal because now Nova MS don't have that same setup. They barely got it, and they wanted to push in knowing that their Sombra was going to be in position. This is tricky now because Translocator was used and one is spotted.
It's in a very potentially dangerous spot. Got enough damage actually out onto Xenofly as the rest of the rotation came through that Global Esports have had to ignore one for the time being. And it's paid off. They've been able to find Oyo in that rotation Nova MS were trying to make, and now Global Esports is trying to continue pressing that numbers advantage. Again, Nova MS back where they started.
And honestly, this is probably taking too long at this stage. 1 minute definitely gone, just about the one. Barely up to the EMP. So many ultimates available for Global Esports, notably Transcendence on Xeon Flux. It's going to be him versus one to see who can get the better of the other player.
Good use of the range actually on the armor pack out of Bubukar to top one off where he was. Now he gets right down onto the point.
Counted.
Yeah, that Transcendence just keeps them safe throughout the course of that EMP, and now that that's run out, they'll be able to commit some ultimates in, starting with the Graviton Surge. This is going to be responded to by the Sound Barrier. Earth Shatter doesn't really get any connection, and now Graviton Surge out of Nova MS. They find Satchok. That is the first kill they've been able to pick up, and that's a numbers advantage. Now Xenofly as well, continuing that numbers advantage. There should be one that Nova MS are able to win. They've got that critical mass, they've tipped the scales, and they will be rewarded with a cap.
And once again, it takes them maybe about roughly 2 minutes to get there, but they do eventually get this cap onto A. Suddenly, this seems a lot more doable, in position to actually win this map. They do have enough time here. 3 minutes and 7 seconds to get one tick should be doable, especially when Earth Shadow is available. EMP nearly available. Look at Global Esports, not a lot there. No defensive ults, and they need to survive against some big guns coming through for Nova.
Global Esports badly need to win this one fight. That could be the beginning of an anchored defense. If they don't get that, looks like they just won't get the map at all.
And one's got to be careful here. If he gets caught out, this is going to be a bad fight for Nova, and that's not what they want. Thought about using the EMP there, but held on.
This still forced Global Esports onto the low ground and made them much juicier EMP.
This could be it.
Nicely done already. The self-destruct from Xenoflight not getting any kind of mileage, throwing it up when Nova MS no longer were. That is the third, very quickly caught, one and done, much like their initial Point B offense. So you've got to say we wanted Nova MS to step it up, start turning it back around. They really did.
Yeah, and slow and steady wins the race here as well for Nova MS. When you consider it takes them a decent amount of time to get past A, but they have what it takes. They have the right ultimates at the right times, especially when you start looking at that defense on B in the time bank rather. For the first time that we've really seen in the series, and certainly for the first time on Hanamura, they had Global Esports number. They had the right counters at the right time, and when they needed to win on that offense, they had the right offensive tools at the right time as well, where Global Esports did not have the defensive tools.
You've got to say you'd be impressed by it. It was good. It was good play. It was, I mean, it was everything we wanted to see, right? It was everything we were talking about them needing to do. And I think more importantly, I feel like they've finally got a handle on how Global Esports are playing, the kind of aggression they are utilizing. Nova MS seem to just be managing Global Esports a lot better now.
I think it's more so that Nova MS have stepped up rather than Global Esports have stepped down. To me, Global Esports still at the caliber that we knew them for these first two maps of Lijiang and then also Kings Row. My question is going to Junkertown now, where there needs to be a bit of a paradigm shift for both teams. Like Gibraltar of last week, we are expecting some flexibility to be shown, particularly on Junkertown A, as we did see in our previous match as well. What are the teams going to do? Are they going to be Bastions, Orisas, double snipers, all of that? Because that's going to be a deciding factor now to see who can get this map win. Is it going to be a 3-1 for Global Esports, or the potential for a much more convincing reverse sweep opportunity?
Yeah, but I mean, even then though, if we do go into that tiebreaker situation, it is worth saying, let's revisit what happened last week with Nova MS. They got themselves into that situation, weren't able to confirm it, weren't able to get it over the line. If anything, they lost the tiebreaker map in a harder fashion than they lost the initial first control map. And when they lost this first control map tonight in such a major way against Global Esports, you'd have to say there would need to be a really big turnaround to actually win that tiebreaker. Getting there is only one half, and they're not even there yet.
And the thing is, at least this time around, they can't lose the tiebreaker harder than the original control map because, look, that was a 200-0. You can't go into the negatives here. But what we can see is a momentum shift. I think that's going to be quite important. If Nova can get Junkertown, suddenly they're the ones that have won 2 maps in a row. And yes, we do go back to previous match, the previous week, where they ended up losing map 5. You got to think that, I don't know, every map is still its own individual map and needs to be somewhat looked at as such. Right now, it's a 2-1. Right now, Global Esports still in the lead, still at match point, and it's up to them to close this match out.
Junkertown. It's nice to be back on Junkertown, actually. It's been a while. Like, the fact that the last time we were seeing a lot of Junkertown and Contenders was, like, pre-GOATs,
Season 1.
3. Yeah, like...
Of last year, that is.
Pirate Ship was so radical. And I mean, still is in a big way. And it's interesting that, like, we didn't see this map through, you know, through a lot of that, like I said, a lot of the 3-3 kind of metas with, it's like a blast from the past. It's like a time capsule to come back here. And immediately we're still seeing Pirate Ship. I'm really loving it. Yo ho ho. Do what you want, because a pirate is free.
And there's now, with the introduction of Buccaneer Baptiste, I believe 5 pirate skins. So you can really
get a full pirate team.
You can nearly do the full cosplay team there.
The one they're actually missing is like a really good pirate skin for Bastion, because he's like the focal point of a pirate ship team comp in a lot of ways. You kind of need that.
Yeah, I just don't know how they would do that. I just don't know how they would achieve that.
He's just literally a ship's cannon. Just, I don't know, broadside Bastion. You could make it work. Jeff, please. Anyway, wishful thinking.
There's some cars that won't kill you.
Maybe if you, this is the extreme other end of inert, ineffectual cars. I guess if there is ever a time when the pirate ship comp uses a Torbjorn turret instead of the Bastion, like, then you can get a pirate skin.
You can use both, to be fair.
I mean, sure, but I mean, Bastion still won't have a pirate skin. That's the problem here.
So I do want to look at comps here. First and foremost, we talk a lot about pirate ships and double snipers and the like, but Global Esports, not interested.
Nope.
They're all about the genuine practice here, no piracy indeed. The regular 3-3, even the Rhine version, what it does mean is you do have to expect that the opponents on the attacking end are probably going to run snipers or a pirate ship or something, so aggressive positioning. They want to jump on top of the cart. They want to shut down the bastion straight off the bat, if it exists, which currently it doesn't.
Global Esports are just honest farmers herding some goats. Nova MS, again, going to stick to the same in their own right with that Sombra variant. And it's interesting. This is almost in itself a surprise to see something so normal on Junkertown.
We see from one as well easily getting himself to the back line, but that doesn't matter. Bubukar down.
Yeah, Global Esports have just as easy a time getting onto the Nova MS backline. The trade on Lil Rax is important though, because Nova MS are going to spawn right here and walk straight into a numbers advantage. Global Esports know this and they have the back right off.
And that's an important map to lose as well. Not having the Zarya means you lack a lot of that damage. You don't have the shields as well. And rightfully so, they have to wait. In fact, they even ferry it through Azur's there, making sure they can get the full 6. What that does allow Nova MS to do is get a lot of cap point pressure.
It's very important. They're starting to move the payload into its most critical passages. This under the bridge here being one of the...
EMP available.
Global Esports just going to barrel right on into this very confined space. That means they are prime EMP targets. One, happy to trade his life for that, because that is looking like it may just be a full team wipe, just shy. Bubble Kitty, no, he will eventually go down as well. It will be a gong to boot. There it is.
And an easy take as well. EMP straight into the Earth Shatter. All members just riding the card along. We'll see if Global Esports can actually regroup in time to contest again. Knowing how they play Kings Row, I'd say the likelihood of them contesting should be quite high.
They are in position for it there. They finally go again. It is Xenofly the first out. Earth Shatter comes across, but no real connection here. They find one. That's such a major pick, and Nexus with that Discord orb is absolute mincemeat under the guns of Global Esports. That's going to be Nova MS stopped in their tracks.
The timing just slightly off there as well. Oyo didn't get his Transcendence until the fight was basically over. If he had the Transcendence a little bit earlier, you could have seen that maybe that goes a different way.
He's got to dive.
Nova MS now get a little bit staggered, lose a little bit more time. The cart's in a great position, so one thing they don't need to worry about, at least for this fight, is positioning of the objective. They just need to find the correct fight to take, and that's it.
Nova MS. Lot in the pocket. Ooh, good find on one. Just get up the translocate back, and that means he's not as set up as they'd like to be.
And one thing they can't really afford to do is wait for another EMP. It's going to take a while to charge this one up, and while they're doing that, they're allowing Global Esports to get their own ultimate, so they just need to pressure through with their double support ults, with the Graviton Surge, and find a win that way.
Just barreling on forward again. A lot of pain that one takes as he's trying to get in close, harassed with damage, and charge up an EMP. Self-destruct layered on top of a Grav. The Grav has ended up what's doing the work there as Bubukar goes down. Nova MS still trying to find an opportunity to counterattack. Holding on to a lot of ultimates here. Commit a sound barrier to stay in the fight.
Now.
This is what they need to use. They've obviously wanted to bank on this. Nexus is already dead by the time it comes out, which means they have a harder time following up, and they didn't stop the supports. They didn't stop the sound barrier. They end up taking another fight loss.
And they just did things in the wrong order here. They should have been really trying to find the Graviton Surge first. They couldn't quite do that. Maybe their pacing was offset by the fact that self-destruct was thrown in there by Global Esports. First grab of the game as well. Lil Rax threw that one in, well, first grab of that fight rather. And so for Nova MS, just never really got off to the right foot. EMP did come through, instantly countered by the sound barrier. And this time around, Nova Esports back to square one.
Build a burger, but they put them all in the wrong order. Fun on the inside. That's Aubrey and Earth Shatter just to stop Nova MS short of following up on that Graviton Surge. A lot of pain coming out onto Oyo. He is going to finally go down for his trouble, and Global Esports, despite some low members, didn't lose anyone until just now. Bubble Kitty going down, but Lil Rax coming out with his own Graviton Surge. Big charge on Nexus. Going to completely isolate him from his team. It's actually Sachok who's maybe a bit more isolated, and that means an Earth Shatter that goes unblocked. And that's Azure and Lil Rax getting picked up. If anything, Sachok's charge has cost Global Esports dearly here. Nova MS from the brink are going to be able to complete that .8 cap and keep their hopes alive.
And miraculously in the overtime as well, which is a little bit concerning considering how much of a lead they had earlier. You'd expected this to happen 2 full minutes ago. In fact, now they just have 2 minutes left to get through B. You do now start to become concerned about their ability to complete the map in general. If they do get B, they only get 1 minute 30 extra to go into C, and we do know for Junkertown that C point is so deadly. Most teams don't finish this map.
And that's to say nothing of the fact that Didn't even have a team get through B in the match just prior. So Nanabu's down at the sat shock, but responded to by a Transcendence. Azure goes down.
Big shatter.
Nicely timed grab from Crazy S. Little Ranks does get one back in response. Bubukar goes down, but self-destruct forward creates a lot of space and gets a kill on Xeon Flux for good measure. That's Nova MS able to keep momentum on their side. Only 2 minutes as they came into this point, but they've still got most of that time.
And momentum's the name of the game here because they haven't stopped pushing. Global Esports now losing 2 fights in a row, expending ultimates, losing ultimates, not really getting enough charge back. Nova MS, on the other hand, still have tools to play with, and that's important because they need this to complete this B push. Look at the positioning here from Nexus, waiting to see if he can get a good angle.
Decides that he can't, just needs to get that shield in front of the team. It is very important. Naturally, just waiting for the opportunity. Sound barrier there to keep Nexus alive. Doesn't work though. Still ends up going down. That's a bit of a tough break. And that means Global Esports suddenly have a bit of priority in this fight. And, immediately going to finish off Crazy S and Bubukar as well. Nova MS, all that momentum suddenly stopped up short.
There's a sound barrier committed. You see how much HP that Nexus actually had. Nearly 1,000 when you consider the base HP plus in the sound barrier. And that melted through so quickly. And this is one of the worst possible places to get reset as well. Carter's very far away. As you start approaching the overtime, you are going to be pressured. You are going to get desperate. You do need to play for the objective, and your spawn location is very far from that.
Bit of a tight spot for Nova MS, but this is arguably similar to what they had just been on point A. It may end up resulting in a similar fight. Little Rags looking for an angle on that grab.
Round 2 for Nexus as well.
Uh-oh.
It's something.
They finish off Bubble Kitties. That is a numbers advantage, but Little Rags, good damage. Nice stun. They know how to finish them off. There they go. And that's the grab being eaten as well by one. Xenofly gets one back on Nexus, but the damage has been done. Nova MS looking to finish off these last few members, even forcing an Earth Shatter out of Satshock, while Nova MS have actually preserved a lot of ultimates, much like on point A. They're going to come back in now with a late overtime cap, but momentum on their side.
And importantly, they got that Earth Shatter out. Like you said, Satshock probably needs it for the C defense. They also have a staggered kill on Bubble Kitty as well, who tried to play hero with that Doomfist. Nova now do get the snowball. Very important. They can only win by snowballing onto C. If they lose a single fight here, they probably don't cap. They have 4 ultimates, and they're going to need to spread them thin because there's a lot of push still to go through for C.
This is a lot to work with. Global Esports are actually the ones with their work cut out for them here, despite the low time. That's going to be self-destruct laid forward on top of the grab. Doesn't find anything, but they still found Little Rax and D-Mech Xenofly. So Bubukar, the only counter trade, is not that high impact. Nova MS preserving the momentum. Every scrap of distance really counts when the time is this tight.
They only use a couple ults there, so they have more to use right now. Double defensive ultimates, really looking at Global Esports. What can they charge up in this time? That's the most important thing, because as long as they keep losing fights, it's cool until you get to this last corner. That's when, if you don't have ultimates on the defense, you probably lose the point.
Crazy S already going a long way towards charging up that Graviton Surge. It charges so fast when you're at that 100 energy. That means he's still leading Lil Rax. Nova MS starting to round that final bend.
They get the extra armor from the rally as well. Still, again, double defensive ultimates. It's a big deal. Nova now looking for Crazy S's next one.
Shatter right into a whole lot of nothing. Nova MS looking for it. It's going to be a Transcendence to come out to save everyone from some damage, but not enough. Satshock is down. The grab is good. They drill down a few more members, just trying to get the damage in. Sound barrier to keep Nova MS healthy in the fight as they find Azure. And Global Esports, even with respawns coming in, have nothing really to go on. It's just going to be a Graviton Surge. This is only a little bit of distance, and the Graviton Surge goes way into the nether regions of this team. No one to follow up on it. Far away from the payload, and Nova MS are going to barely get it over the line.
You can just see there from Global Esports, just didn't have the pacing there. We're trying to throw in ults at the wrong times, all across the end of B and then the start of C as well, getting themselves staggered, never really getting the important ultimates out of the side of Nova MS. When you are the defender in that position, you know there's not a lot of time left. You know there's actually more pressure on the offense than there is on the defense. Despite the offense snowballing, it's very easy to shut down. I say easy contextually to shut down a snowball like that, because you know as you head into the overtime, Nova MS are going to be pressured to use more ultimates. They cannot afford to lose. They cannot afford to bank up. They're on their last push. You can bait out as many ultimates as you like. It should be I don't know, generally a little bit more simple to think of to do that. Just didn't really quite happen. Nova went towards that last corner, went towards that last phase. Way too many resources, way too many tools for Global Esports to deal with.
Now, this is only one half of the story. The second half is about to unfold on our screens. There's still the world where Global Esports just absolutely smash through this offense and have a massive time bank come into overtime, time bank with a big advantage. Who's to say? But certainly Nova MS looking stronger still than they did in the first half. That was a very different kind of payload map to how Kings Row played out.
And I say this is another point where, unfortunately for Global Esports, very winnable. It still is very winnable, depending on how this offense goes. What we are going to see here is they do need to camp through, and preferably they do need to camp through with a bit more time on their hands. Both teams now sticking to the 3-3 GOATS compositions. No one wants to play any snipers. No one wants to play any pirate ships.
Xeon Flux considered the Bastion for a moment there, but decided not to. See what Nova MS are running. If they are going to swap over to it, which they may do, Xeon Flux was hovering around the base. They want to get possession of this payload space first. And they are starting to do that now.
And looking at the ultimate charges as well, reasonably even between both teams. One getting a bit ahead of Little Rex right now. Nova MS are losing a lot of positioning.
Yeah, and they're not really charging much in terms of ultimates as that is happening. Oyo is leading Xeon Flux. That is one saving grace, but Satchok coming up on an Earth Shatter could be a real swing point.
And Nova MS really do need to force a fight around this section. This is a really important part of this A defense. Haven't found much just yet. In fact, they lost a member.
And that's really tough, just the numbers disadvantage, even as ultimates finally start to come up. That's why those kills were so critical for Global Esports just before ultimates were going to be a factor. Means that now as the ultimates come up, Global Esports still have control of the payload. It is up to Nova MS to answer.
And the thing is, Nova MS wanted to get ultimates out of Global Esports, and because, like you said, the timing was just slightly off. If the ultimates started to come on for both sides, this would have been a pretty bloody brawl. And if Nova MS lose, likely they force ults. Right now, though, they do have a decent amount, nearly 6.
Yeah, they were leading an ult charge, and this is where that can still pay off for them. Little Rax just trying to get right into the thick of it, and that's one of the few ultimates that Global Esports actually had to use. So now Nova MS can start digging deep into their incredibly deep pockets. Earth Shatter down, but no real follow-up. Self-destruct finds Xeon Flux, and still some room to breathe for Nova. Self-destruct from Xenofly, a little bit less impressive as Bubble Kitty goes down. Jervis, the only counter trade, is not really enough to make a fight happen. One does go down, but Nova MS have retained control of this payload now. It is up to Global Esports to get back on it.
Both teams have basically drained themselves dry of resources going into B. And I say going to B because right now, I'll say actually not going into B because Nova MS do manage to fully defend this A point. Global Esports came in with slightly less ultimates, and at the end of the day, Nova MS with the greater amount, with a higher value coming out of that as well, is going to secure, at least for the time being, this A defense before we get into B.
Now Nova really need to get those ults charging. Little Rank's very close to a Graviton Surge. Early pick on Azure, that's important. Earth Shatter from Satchok, not really too impressive. Xenofly gets demeched as well. Xeon Flux as well down, and Nova MS just kind of pull a defense out of nowhere. They didn't really have a lot of tools to work with, and Global Esports kind of did.
And Global Esports there as well, timing-wise. Lil Rex came onto the Graviton Surge slightly later. Members already started falling down. Nova MS right now don't really have, in fact, they don't have a defensive ultimate. So if this Graviton Surge comes down big, if Craziest does not deny it, Global Esports could just win off this one ultimate, but they need to make sure it connects.
There it is. It gets onto a good number of members. Lil Rax low, but he's going to be just fine. And one down means no counter grab, no matter how long the fight goes on for realistically. Craziest down, Oyo down, and Global Esports are looking to be on the cusp of getting back underway. Not quite going to be the dramatic overtime turnaround that Nova MS got on their attack, but Global Esports have possession of the payload, and that's what counts.
What we do see here, it's pretty comparable time. 30 seconds extra is what Global Esports have over their counterparts in the same positioning on the same phase of attack. But Nova MS, though, have ultimates coming up online soon. One with the Graviton Surge. Jervis already has a sound barrier. Oyo's coming up to transcend it. Global Esports, slight momentum pushing through. They need to rely on Satchok once again. They need to rely on the fact that they are going to get double support ultimates first.
This is where it should really start to come online for Global Esports, where they should be able to get that big momentum push through B. Nexus isolated and dies as well. Would have died to that self-destruct most likely if it hadn't been for that. Bubukar down and one, despite the big damage he's putting out on this front line. Can't single-handedly secure these kills and knows that he's just a sacrificial lamb at this point to bleed a bit more time off the clock.
A bit of a mistake there from the Nova MS front line. You see, Nexus actually got all the healing. He got the armor pack, he got the bubble there from his teammate as well. One, and for Nova MS, didn't force ultimates out. Self-destructed fly through. Not really the highest value. You want to get the ultimates from the support players or the tanks. Lil Rax about to get another Graviton Surge.
Coming back in for this last hurrah. Sadshock didn't really get anything with that Earth Shatter. Tried to get a bit too clever with it. The grab to come out, double grab. In fact, Crazy S stays stopped off. They're going to be fine for the time being. Sound barrier's out as the Earth Shatter finds a couple on their backs. Charge in onto Xenofly. Sadshock a little bit low here as well. The Earth Shatter there did not get good connection in response, and Nova MS going to do what Global Esports couldn't and anchor a defense.
That's a posthumous Earth Shatter coming through from Sadshock as well. He was basically already going down. And that's the second or maybe even third time we've kind of seen this from Global Esports, where ults being thrown in last second. Team fight was more or less decided at that point. There were so many more members down compared to Nova MS, who in this sort of position, very similar to what we saw in Nova's attack, about 1 minute remaining, cart's very pushed up, but the respawn distance is very long for the attacking team.
Global Esports are at a slight lead on some ultimates here. The real one's probably going to be the grab. One's got a bit of a leg up on that. Sound barrier out from Global Esports. They find Nexus. That's really big, really important. Trade back as they're on Bubble Kitty, but the highest priority target. Grab is now available. It's going to be harder to follow up on without Nexus. And Crazy S is low as well. He's taking a big risk getting into the thick of it. Self-destruct is right there just to stop Nova MS from getting in too close. And now the counter grab to come out from Lil Rax. They find Oyo. They find one. They look to finish off Crazy S and Jervis. That should be, once again, Global Esports. It's not quite in the overtime. Actually, Nexus comes back in with a shadow.
Still could go either way.
Hold on a second. Just when Global Esports looked like they had it, Nova MS might have just rallied. Craziest gets back in the mech. Xenofly's D-Max. They've made it happen.
And this is the position I'm talking about. Less than 10 seconds waiting for respawners, and they have to touch the cart. They can't even afford to respawn right now.
They gotta go with their transcendence, and they are bumped back. Again, beautiful use of crowd control. Same as what Nova MS did when they attacked point B of Hanamura. They pull it off on Junkertown. They have begun the real bones of a reverse sweep. We go to that tiebreaker. This is where they have a shot to prove that that first control, that wasn't the real Nova. This is the real Nova.
You start to see the score being reflected as well. This was a 3-1 because B wasn't even capped out, and we get to the same sort of scenario. When we look at A and B across both offense and defense, similar beats, similar storylines, just a parallel between both teams. A lot of struggling onto A, barely capping A in the overtime in the case of Nova, and 30 seconds remaining in the case of Global Esports. Towards B, pushing the cart to the end, then losing a fight, being put in a weird spot where heading into overtime, super long respawn distance, getting really desperate. However, Nova MS, cap B, cap C, Global Esports failed to cap B.
And it's a little bit rough, you know, it's falling just short of the mark. One particular thing I actually want to highlight that's been a bit of a trend over the course of this series and has really come to a loggerhead, especially there on Junkertown, is the difference between Nexus and Sadshock with their Earth Shatters. Initially, earlier in the series, it was Nexus often, you know, throwing them out when members were already dead, throwing them out when his life was more than forfeit, and oftentimes even just getting outright blocked. Whereas Sadshock, even though they weren't big, he was actually connecting. They were getting something. They were forcing something out of Nova MS in return at least. And that's kind of completely flipped now. More often than not, we're seeing Sadshock's ultimates get blocked out. We're seeing him throw them in a bit too early, a bit too late, right into shields when he's already dead. And on the other side of that, Nexus is getting huge Earth Shatters. One, in fact, that just completely turned a fight around and has allowed them to tie up the series.
Yeah, there's just a couple of pivotal fights there where if you're on the Global Esports side, and speaking of, you know, that defensive side as well, you know, I think realistically, Nova MS probably shouldn't have been allowed to push through all the way to C, getting them 3 points. And when you start, again, looking at the Global Esports side of things, only getting 1 point because they couldn't quite get their beat. A lot of those mistakes just really start to show, and we're getting down into now 4 maps through the series. First 2 maps, super clean, 0-2 to start with. Kings Row, again, very dominant fashion. Start to get a Hanamura, very shaky. Junkertown now very much further in favor of Nova MS. Does make you wonder what's going to happen on map number 5.
And it is Nova MS that seems to really like these tiebreakers. Once again, they're the team that bring us back here. However, unlike last week where it didn't come until right at the end of the week, this week we're kicking off, well, not quite kicking off, but we're going to get one right in the top of day. You know, it's not even the top of day 1. Just ignore everything I said because it's happening on, it's day 1 of week 2. That's the real point.
Day 3 out of the season, though. As well.
I mean, at any rate, it isn't just going to be the very last thing. It's happening earlier. That's the point. Anyway, we're going to find out how that actually plays out after a brief break.
Yep, so we'll see you right after this. Welcome back once again to Overwatch Contenders Pacific Season 1. Here is about to wrap up the final match of the day, and we are into Map 5, our second Map 5 of the season so far. And once again, it's Nova MS taking us there, this time against Global Esports.
And once again, it's with them just on the cusp of a reverse sweep as well, having lost the first two in pretty startling fashion as well, if we dare say. And then kind of bringing it back around, and not just clawing it back around, that actually looked pretty good. So now we are going to see that second control map that is preset for the week. If we do end up there later this week, it is Nepal.
Yeah. We talk about the momentum shift here as well. You can see that 0-2 into a Nova MS 4-3 victory. Pretty close. 3-1 victory. Much more commanding here. Going into Nepal, there's two real threads to look at here. One is it's a repeat of a control game mode on a new control map in Nepal instead of Lijiang. However, it is Nova MS picking up pace.
That being said, last week we were in this exact same situation and Nova MS did go on to lose that control. When I say exact same, I mean like beat for beat, you know, the exact same map modes fell the exact same way. I don't want to say it means Nova have a particular weakness on control or anything like that, but it's not too surprising when the team that wins the first control map goes on to win the second one. So Nova do not want the exact same thing to play out twice. This is the one thing they want changed.
And both teams taking a little bit of time to just reset themselves, reset their mentality after that 5-minute break to now get into this fifth and final map to see who indeed is going to take out the series.
There we have it, both teams rolling out the gate. This is a bold choice. Bubble Kitty, Xeon Flux in the pocket on the Pharah as we come into Sanctum.
Well, we finally do get to see the damage dealer picks out from Global Esports. We knew they were capable of them. Can they really execute?
Yikes. Yeah, it was big damage, but they're able to get the counter trade on Oyo with the outflank from Lil Rax, and that's kind of sent Nova MS reeling now as one. Kind of isolated on the side. Good top off, though. It still ends up conked over the edge thanks to Bubble Kitty. Trade back. Nova MS is still establishing presence on the point. That's something Global Esports are going to have to respond to.
You know, there's a few members going off the edge here, and finally it's going to be Nova MS getting that cap. Global Esports slowing themselves down, nearly onto the rocket barrage though.
And I do like how Nova MS are handling this. They're just trying to play more centralized. That's the rocket barrage, gets Jervis, and that's enough for now to counter trade Endo. Little Rex low. Will end up going down just as he tried to commit an EMP. Did get Bubuka and Oyo with that, but that was not what you wanted that ultimate to do for you.
And I think using the ultimates here does signal that they're going to make a compositional change. 3 members, Bubble Kitty, Xeon Flux, and Lil Rex. Now onto the 3-3 goes composition. Nova MS, though, already basically there. One obviously still going to be on the Sombra.
We're also not just going to see a repeat of Lijiang Tower. Those are both 100 to 0s. Nova MS are the first ones in control here. Already starting to push up pretty positively. Global Esports coming up for their next punt.
Oh, this could be deadly.
MS, oh, over the edge. Nice bump from Nexus with that Primal Rage. Finds Lil Rax as well. And Global Esports see the writing on the wall. The few members that aren't already dead take a dive.
This is a huge map for Winston as well, especially Primal Rage versus a team that does not have the resources just yet. Freshly swapped heroes for Global Esports, and now another freshly swapped hero. Xeon Flux going over to the Ana instead. Primal Rage just has so much more value. Oyo nearly onto the Coalescence. I would expect him to go on top of a Zenyatta, to change on top of a Zenyatta after the Coalescence is used.
The only thing Global Esports have going for them now is the self-destruct, which crazy-ass matches anyway, and this EMP from 1 is all Nova MS need to charge up the other ultimates they'll rely on in future fights.
See how Global Esports wants to approach the point. Look at this, EMP already ready to be used.
Straight on top of at least a couple of members. Azure, though, not caught in it, is able to respond. But Xeon Flux, Xenofly! I said it was the only ultimate they had and that it would be matched by Crazy S, but I was wrong, and I'm glad to eat my words. An impressive 3K out of Xenofly to rescue Sanctum.
And that's not what you want to see when you throw in an EMP. You catch yourself, both Orion and Azari, but you don't get the other members. And out of those other members, they have just the correct ultimate at just the correct place to then blow up that point, get themselves a recap. It is a 0% start versus 95 rather. Global Esports have a lot of work to do.
They've got the tools for it, though. They've still got a Primal Rage up now on Nexus. Coalescence, they're going to go right in early with that, get aggressive, try to isolate Xenofly around the side. Not quite getting the same out of that Primal Rage just yet. Nearly got a bump on Satchok, who's able to charge back into safety. They commit a sound barrier. They need to keep legs in this fight. There's that Primal now coming out as they are all caught in a grab. That is far from ideal. And this is actually where that Ana pick has paid off quite a lot. That bio grenade really hurt Nova MS in that one.
This one also really shut down Nexus. The Primal Rage did a lot of work the last time he used it, but he got grabbed. He got caught in that grab. 1,000 HP disappeared super quickly. Didn't push anyone off the edge. Global Esports starting to regain control here. The Graviton Surge from Lil Rags, a key factor in that. Now starting to rotate into some of these other ultimates, waiting to see if Satchok can get an Earth Shatter available.
Now it's Nova MS actually playing recovery right now. Still got a little bit of time, though. Global Esports arguably are just catching up percentage-wise. Bubukar down early. That's the nano boost onto Satchok, while all these members of Nova MS are in this confined space. It is ideal. It's fish in a barrel for a Reinhardt. That's actually Crazy S. He got booped. He was sort of taking a dive, but Azure gets the kill credit.
This is where Global Esports are in the position where they're going to force an overtime on their side. 95 for Nova MS, soon to be 99 for Global Esports, and coming up to some important resources. Support ultimate for Azure, also the Graviton Surge coming up for Lil Rax again. Nova Esports have their own grab, but not much else.
That's really it. The grab comes out as well very early. It's going to be immediately responded to by a sound barrier. Now Nova MS, they've got nothing left to go, and they've already lost a chunk of members in the self-destruct just to make it look pretty. Yeah, it gets one in the overtime. Well, not overtime. Past time, I guess.
100-95, still a victory for this round on Nepal for Global Esports. Wasn't without the difficulty, though. They had to get 0-100 all in one go. They could not afford to lose the point even once, or Nova MS were probably going to take that round away from them. A really awkward start for Global Esports. Tried to go with that Sombra and the Pharmacy. Didn't quite work for them. A slow-ish swap onto the 3-3 Goats eventually ends up netting them that round win. But now going on to Shrine, they're one up, but can they close this one out? They're in match point position.
This is where it's really going to have to count for Nova MS. You can get to 95, that's a bit of a change in tune for what we saw on Lijiang Tower, but you still have to get it over the line. This is their last chance.
Neither team wants to take a risk here. Both teams running pretty standard. Nexus right in the face of Global Esports.
Early ult charge for him as well. Needs to be careful when he goes for those charges. More often than not, he's found himself bumped forward and unable to rejoin his team, but this time not punished.
Big rotation for Global Esports. A few members took a lot of damage as well. Discord Orb's going to be on Lil Rag, so a lot of pressure on that play specifically.
Yeah, this is where they just have to go in, and Nova MS know that. They were very prepared for that. Good placement on these Discord Orbs so far, and they're just drilling down individual members. This is brilliant target selection, brilliant fire prioritization and focus fire. Global Esports take a really big fight loss.
Once again, Global Esports 2 out of 2 on Nepal, going to have to rely on catch-up mechanics because it's been 2 out of 2 first fight wins for Nova MS, first caps for Nova MS. Last time we went to 95 here. How much extra percentage does Nova get this time around? And they have the early ultimates. Global Esports, once again, are just slightly lacking behind, and that can cost them.
Nova MS need to maintain a lead. They need to maintain a high efficiency in their ultimate economy. Rally out now from Bubble Kitty. Nova MS Plenty to use here, nearly at a full 6 actually. They're going to commit a grab first. Lay it in with the self-destruct. It's already a decent-sized commitment. They do get a Transcendence out of Xeon Flux as well. Don't get anything from those ultimates directly, but they do have a kill. That's a numbers advantage. Now they find Satchok and continue pressing the numbers advantage. This is what they need.
A difficult place for Global Esports to be in. They were nearly at their own Graviton Surge, and if Lil Rex had it just a little bit quicker at the 5 versus 6 position, maybe they can use their own grab. Even if they don't win, they probably bait out some support ultimates. That's still something to work with. However, going into this now, saving the grab still does work for them in the end, as well as having the Earthshatter to find a combo with. Looking at progress, though, 63%. Again, last time it went to 95. Are we going to get to 95 this time?
This is where things get big. This is where things get important. These support ultimates for Nova MS, a big advantage they have coming into this fight, given that Global Esports have that Earthshatter, have that Graviton Surge.
Look at one, he's nearly on his Graviton Surge again.
Big commitment though in from Lil Rex, laid in with a self-destruct, nice bump, gets 3, Xeno Fly, does it again! This is what turned things around for them on Sanctum, and Nova MS, I guarantee you, are already getting flashbacks.
And this is just 2 ultimate commits from Global Esports as well. 93%, 2% less than they had before. It's still a very big lead, but like you said, it's still the exact same way that Global Esports started to turn things around. It's not just Xenofly either, it's a whole team effort there. You do have a lot of ways to prevent that shield from blocking. Nexus couldn't find the angle, wasn't able to. Does come in with ult, so they are not that far behind. They can still take this.
Very excellently done. Lil Rex has actually managed to give them the slip here. It's going to be coming in from the backside. It's going to be a shatter out from Nexus. Not a big one. Counter shatter from Satchok, though, is huge. They're able to keep Nexus alive, but Crazy S's Mech not so lucky. And Nexus doesn't even stay alive for that long. Global Esports, ideal fight there.
And a really good one, because this is the one where Nova wanted to commit ultimates, and they did. Didn't quite get the results here. Now 40% for Global Esports. They needed to start rotating into some more of their own ults. They spent 2 on the game winning, on the last fight win that they had before this one. They spent another couple now. They do have double support ultimates. They have the abilities to have the longevity to remain alive.
One saving grace right now for Nova MS is they've got a support ultimate that they might not need, because Global don't have any high threat ultimates. Nova MS do. They want to layer in that grab self-destruct. There goes the first half of that. Actually don't want to use the self-destruct, coming in with it very late. That's already both support ultimates out from Global. They look to come in with their own grab, and there it is. Here's the response now from Nova MS in the form of Oyo's Transcendence. Now Jervis, sound barrier to come out. No, Global Esports just coming up on some big tools. Earthshatter comes out, not a hot one. Crazy S does dive at Satchok, isolated. That's something for Nova to work with as Nexus comes up on a shadow. There's going to be no shield to block it, and it pays off big. Gets 3 on the ground, looking to follow them up. Having a bit of a hard time, but they do find Lil Rax. Now looking to get the rest. Pretty even in terms of percentages, but Nova MS, big numbers advantage.
The right members alive at the right time as well. Nexus survives all of that big melee brawl. Gets the final Earthshatter, the one that secures them the team fight win, the one that secures them the round as well.
And finally, they have won themselves a map within control. It is one thing to get the 95% on Sanctum. It is another thing to finally take a point off Global once they have possession and win that round. Finally, it looks like Nova MS have what it takes to finish the reverse sweep.
You're in a sort of position as well. Again, look at last week. They couldn't quite do it here. Losing momentum as quickly as Nova MS got it against Cyclone Coupling versus Global Esports. It's 1-1 apiece. And again, remember, both the rounds here that we've seen on the poll, Nova MS has taken the early lead, a 95% start, and then a 93% start. Global Esports now needs to start winning these early fights to get that first cap, because we know they have the capability to actually win these rounds, but they are doing so from a large deficit every time.
Global Esports, in their own right, on the cusp, as they have been for so many maps now, of toppling another giant of this region in this fresh season of Contenders. So close for both of these teams.
Once again, neither team wants to take a risk. It's going to be the 3-3 Ryan goes composition.
Jervis.
Early kill, though. That's a big deal.
And those are the ones you can't always account for. You get that 5 ball, the Zenyatta gets a headshot, and you just lose a member. Nova MS know that they are going to have to see this point over. This is not how they wanted to start Village.
And finally, Global Esports get that first cap. Finally, they are into the lead early on for that progress. It's only 1 kill, though. They can't quite snowball just yet. They need to find that next fight ASAP. Nova MS already on that cap.
Nexus a little low. Nova MS have started to just force their way in here. This is kind of what they need to do. We're going to get the damage on Xenofy. They are going to be able to demech him. That's an opening. That's a something. Jervis, though, again going down, and Bubukar in trouble as well. Nova MS, they're really trying to brawl this one out, but for every step forward they take, Global Esports are willing to dish in some damage. That's a good lot of damage on Satchok. Rescued, though, by a sound barrier. Not rescued for long enough. And that's a lot of defensive tools committed from Global Esports, who now do not have those tools available as Nova MS continue drilling the damage in. Nova MS going to wrest control at this point of Global in pretty convincing fashion.
And once again, we just have to look at the slight timing differences here. One was just ever so slightly ahead on the Graviton Surge. In fact, ahead enough, he throws it out there. They get a lot of momentum off it despite the Transcendence coming through to counter. There's no counter punch coming through from Little Rex. A little bit too slow on the Graviton Surge. Can't use it because too many members went down. One's already at 54% onto his second charge. Little Rex looking to use his first one. And that is a very quick flip on the cap as well.
Global Esports, that's a double-double. Oh, that's an eat on Lil Rax's Graviton Surge and Satchok. He and Nexus were both bumped against each other with their charges, but it's Nova MS who come off the better of that one. That was a very critical win.
And not only do they win this fight, they do so saving every single ultimate, all 6. They knew the only big weapon they had to watch out for was going to come through from the Grav. Maybe the Earthshatter to follow, but once the Grav was denied by the defense matrix, Nova MS knew they were heavily in the lead. They knew they didn't have to invest much more. In fact, they invested nothing, already overtaking in terms of progress against Global Esports, who are so far behind. Look at the ults.
Suddenly the shoe is on the other foot. This is what Nova struggled against for so long in Lijiang Tower, and finally they are in command. They're in the driver's seat, as with 2 ultimates only, they absolutely slam dunk Global Esports.
And if there's an opportunity for Xenofly to get another 3K to save this game, he needs to do so in the next fight. This is looking like it will be the final opportunity for Global Esports to enter into Nepal Village. 80% now and counting up. If Nova MS take this fight, they take the round in the whole series.
And this is what they've been waiting for since they played Cyclone Coupling last week. The win, the reverse sweep. The shatter comes out from Nexus right into Satchok's shield. Global Esports have steered themselves onto the point. Now, Nova MS don't actually have anything at their disposal except for these defensive tools, but still they find a pick on Bubble Kitty.
Little
They
Rax
commit forward. There's a sound barrier from Azure, Little Rax. They've got that combo, that Graviton Surge, that self-destruct. Here it goes in. Is it a 3K? It's not going to be it. It's only Jervis who'd already channeled the sound barrier. Satchok down to Oyo. Still a lot of counter kills, but Nova MS, the overtime, barely getting the stagger there is Azure, but he's going to give up his life for it, and they have done it. For how poorly the series started, Nova MS claw their way back to complete a reverse sweep and get themselves on the board.
And this is where you cannot count teams out, even if they are down 0-2, even if the stakes are so high. And you look at the score difference, 0-2 start, 0-2 on Kings Row as well. You're starting to look at that scenario. I even said this is probably where Global Esports finished things out 3-0, 3-1, all the threes, all the ways they could have finished this match, but the way they did end up finishing is 2-3. Nova do complete the reverse sweep, the first reverse sweep of the season, and the second 5-map series of the season, but a very different result for Nova compared to how they fared against Cyclone Coupling.
And it feels like this team is finally a little bit underway. You know, already 2 weeks in here, already so many maps in. You know, they nearly got that win up over Cyclone Coupling. It was that rematch of last season's semi-final, and this is the team that finished second last season. They made it all the way to the grand finals, which in itself felt almost unprecedented when you looked at their more recent results prior to that. For them to have a slow start to the season feels a little rough, but we have been saying with the longer regular season, with the more games you play, those earlier losses a lot less punishing. You do actually have the time to be a bit of a slow starter, and now that they're underway, Nova MS, if that's how they're going to play for the rest of this group stage, they look threatening.
And the thing is, not comfortable for either side. Very Eventually, a very well-displayed game from both sides as well. Nova MS, very slow to start, as we've mentioned. That's something they got to shore up on in further matches. They can't afford to always be down 2 maps or relying on a reverse sweep. It didn't work for them in week 1. It barely worked for them this week. Weeks 3 and beyond, they don't want to be in this position. They don't want to be forced to have to reverse sweep every single time. And for Global Esports, they finished 3-1 versus AVRL last week. This time around, they were in position to at least do the same thing. Yeah, they dropped map 3. Doesn't mean they potentially drop map 4, then 5. That's 3 maps they have to lose in a row from a match, from basically a match point position.
And that's the thing, like no matter how good those first 2 wins did actually look for Global Esports, and they did look really, really good, it wasn't like Global Esports started performing any worse. It was actually that Nova MS really stepped it up, and that was enough to turn into a win. You almost look at that and think if they'd both played like that from the start, then Nova MS would have walked away with a 3-1, maybe even a 4-0. But credit where it's due. On the other side of that, Global Esports tonight did come very close to, like we said, toppling another pre-standing giant of this region. With this rebuilt Global Esports roster, that is all promising signs out of a team that in their own right is looking to make another playoffs run this season.
Yeah, and I think to be fair as well, looking at the results, 3-2 would kind of suggest it was a super close game, and I would definitely agree with that. First 2 maps, once again, wasn't close. Last 3 maps, very close. I don't know if you could really say that if Nova started out the way they finished, it would have been
conjectural.
It would have been 4-0 or something like that. I think very much looking at Nepal and Junket, Nepal and Hanamura, I would say closer to that degree, would be more telling of how this match was meant to be played. I think Lee Jung should have been a 2-1 result as well. Kings Row should have been both teams, possibly going into the overtime. It's just strange that it didn't end up being that way. Nova MS sleeping for the first 2 maps, woke up for number 3, and then put Global Esports down from 4 and 5 onwards.
And that's a bit of a pill to swallow as well for Global Esports. We mentioned actually outside of Contenders, they just suffered a loss against Nova MS. Well, they're going to suffer a loss once again, and that may be a torch that they hold high for the rest of the season. Who's to say? Still a lot of matches ahead of both of these teams, and indeed still a couple of matches ahead of us for this week as well. Only half of the